Hello, welcome to episode 12 of Setting the Scene. I'm your host, David. Now, as I've explained, Setting the Scene is changing ever so slightly, and it will be released along with the battle report on the Friday, and will be the board build for the battle report. So to that end, I thought I'd start with the first one, which is how I built the City Fight board for the campaign between Boris and I. So we've got our falchion. It's made 15 inches onto the board, or 18 inches, and then it's been crippled by the Imperial Fist. Now, of course, this board build was done prior to the game, so I have no idea how the game has gone. I have no idea of Boris's Imperial Fist list. I know what I'm bringing lots of Terminators and Assault Troops to kind of storm the position of the Imperial Fist. But this is how I built the board. So first of all, we'll start off with this City Fight Forge World tile. I've put my custom-made base to cover up all the gaps and gives me a nice flat surface. Plonk that big boy on there. Perfect. Next is this one here. I've taken I cut out the building at the back here because there's a bit of a ridge where that crashed rhino is. Quite conveniently, it's an Imperial Fist rhino, so that bodes well for the storyline, doesn't it? Be a bit weird if it was like a Death Guard one or something else. If we move round to this side, this big long building fits here. So you can always imagine that the falchion has advanced up in cover of this sort of building, and then it's kind of been exposed on the other side here. Now, one thing I want to do as well is I want to introduce a second camera for these board builds. So I've got one here. I'm going to turn it on. I've already reshot this 3 times because I forgot to turn the camera on, so it doesn't always happen perfect first time. Try and get that lined up for you guys. The reason why I've kind of got introduced a second camera is because you won't be able to see everything I do on the board builds because they'll be obstructed or the camera's a bit too far away. So I've set it up now, it's running, and on this side of the board, I'm just going to fill this gap here. It's a lovely square base for a building. I'm going to pop that in there. Pop that bit on the corner so it kind of rounds the edges off. So it's all ready to go. Put a crater in there because obviously it's been bombed and it's come out the top. That works perfectly. Next, we're going to turn our attentions to obviously my favourite piece of terrain. Could not get away with not including this, and this is just to create some additional line of sight blocking terrain. Give the word bearers a bit of a chance to spring their trap. I would love to do something later on that fits on top of that, that allows the crane to be put on there. I think that would look really cool. I don't think it'd take much work either. But that's definitely something I need to do. It'll look really cool. Just have the crane placed on there and it's like a bit of an unloading bay or whatever. So that looks really good. Some great line of sight blocking terrain there. And then we'll turn our attention to the building at the front. I've got virtually all of my Unreal Wargaming Studios terrain here. I think that works. I think that's better. Might have a corner section somewhere. It might be downstairs actually. I might go have a look for that. Oh, that's way better. That fits. I'm just missing a bit on the end, which I can use this piece. Oh, doesn't quite fit. Do you know what? I'm going to go back to that bit. No, it doesn't work. Let's have a look at this piece. Too big. All right, I'm going to run with that. That's way better. Fits in the spot perfectly. I think we'll put another little crater in there. Can you guys see that? Yeah, just about. Okay, I'll get some more photos of that, don't worry. I'll tell you what, I'll get the camera and you can see what I'm doing there. There you go, as you can see, it just fits beautifully on there with that crater, and we'll fill that with aggregate so you can see what's going on, and it will cover all those hard lines up. I'm going to leave this kind of little loading bay as it is. I quite like it like that. It'll give the word bearer some room to deploy some troops as well. A couple little more things to do. I'm going to put these craters inside the buildings here to further tell the story that that they've been destroyed. Having a bit of a tough time getting that one in. I think we'll have to abandon. I've just switched out the crater, so this crater fits much better in there, and this larger one fills that void much nicer. Yeah, that's perfect. All right, and that's pretty much it. I'm not going to do much more. I'm going to do the aggregate and the rock in a second, which I'll show you. The final thing to do is to put a little bit of smoke on this rhino that's here, just to kind of show that the battle is raging. Really happy where the board's going now. I'm not going to add any more buildings. The whole point of this is to demonstrate the Imperial Fists have found a perfect strategic position, lots of line of sight, lots of cover, and to entice the word bearers in after crippling their falchion. Because it's an absolute beast of a machine, they're not just going to want to let it go. So they've sent reinforcements to try and recover it, and the Imperial Fists have picked the perfect place to ambush the reinforcements from the word bearers. I'm going to have a quick clean up, and then we're going to come back with the aggregate and the rock. All right, I'm back. Good clear up. I'm now just going to do the aggregate and the rock, but I'm going to put the video camera on and just show you some different spots which I think are worth pointing out. First place we're going to start is with this corner over here. We've got a really hard edge, and it looks like the building's kind of over the top of its foundations, but we're going to work on that. So first of all, I'm going to put a load of stone chip-ins around the edge just to kind of help that a little bit more. Maybe a big piece here. Looks good. Now a bit of aggregate. That looks good. Yep, that's really cool. That kind of just helps blend all that in together. I think that's a bit too big. Let's get some smaller pieces. Yep, I think you agree that works really well. There's another bit over here which we need to do. Same sort of treatment really. Smaller bits this time, nothing too crazy, and we'll kind of let it spill out a little bit more, just to create that little bit of realism. Like the foundations are crumbling underneath, and then that gives you your final effect there, which looks really cool. Next, we're going to do the middle of the building. All right, so for this bit, what we've got here now is got obviously that crater, which creates quite a hard line between the floor there. So all I'm going to do is just put some rocks around it. I'm not too worried about this one because you're not really going to see in there very much, but we will do some shots of the Imperial Fist in that cover. So we need to make an attempt at blending it. And then all I'm going to do is going to cover that entire floor with the aggregate. Now I'm not bothered if it spills out through the windows, because that will kind of help. So you can see now that that's blended in beautifully. Just to further reinforce that, I'm going to put a bit of rock and stone on the top here, just to hide some of the cracks, because the floor level started to come away now from the sides. It's had so much use over the years. And again, just blend that in ever so slightly. Nothing crazy, because there's going to be models all in front of that, and we're not really going to do that many close-ups of the interior. Like so. That works. So hopefully the difference is quite noticeable. And then I've got a whole crate here or a whole thing of crates and bits and bobs. So we're going to try and stay away from green if we can, because obviously we've got the Imperial Fists here, which are yellow. Then we've got the red of the word bearers, so it'll be like traffic lights. I talk about that quite often. Nothing too crazy. We don't want to go overboard, but the Imperial Fists would have fortified themselves, and they would have brought munitions in. Put a little bit of stone and rock on that, just to show that off. Again, they're going to be covered by the lid there, so you won't see too much of that. Again, we're going to follow the same principles here with this one. Going to blend this out ever so slightly, plus the gaps. Nothing too crazy. Try and get that aggregate to the back. A little bit on the platform up here, or the first floor rather. Bit more aggregate that ran out there. Cool. Pop the roof on. Done. And I'm just going to do that with all the other buildings that are on the board. There we go, that's that one done. You know, it can be so fast, it doesn't have to be so manicured and so taken care of. I put a little bit of rock and aggregate around this broken rhino. You can just see that it makes such a difference. Finally, this is the last building to receive some treatment from the rock and aggregate. Nothing crazy. Nice and gentle. It's hard to get stuff in the corners. There we go, a little bit on top. Done. The only thing left to do now is I'm just going to add a little bit of this aggregate to some of the existing rubble which has been blended onto the board. And this is almost like adding a wash to your models, and you make it dark in the recesses, because the board is actually quite light, to be honest with you. But when you add this real dark contrast to it, it deepens those shadows a little bit. So I know it sounds silly, but it does make a difference. The only thing you have to do is of course, it does go all over the place. So you just have to, you know, very carefully put it where you want it. And if not, you can just brush it with your fingers, or if you've got a little paintbrush, whatever you want to use really. So I'm just doing that over some of the craters. But equally, you know, the craters, it's exploded rock, so they require a little bit of rubble and rock around them. I try to pick out the smallest pieces of aggregate as I can. Oh, sorry, of stone rather, slate. Just those little bits. I think it's nearly there. I don't want to go over the top with this one because there's going to be plenty of opportunity to go crazy as we go further into this battle. I can't do a lot about these lines. That's just the way the boards match up. They're a bit sunken, and you know, there's just no way you'll get an immaculate, perfect surface. I have thought about actually rebuilding these boards out of foam core and everything else, but because I think they're quite straightforward to do, if I'm perfectly honest with you. But you know, as ever with the channel, it's always time. I think you guys would appreciate it more battle reports rather than me producing no battle reports and just building boards, which you'll see in 6 months' time because I'm just so busy. But anyway, that is the board. I'm going to include some photos, and you've already seen the video for all around the board in the battle report, but I'll add it on again. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. I love building boards, as you all know. So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.